We charged the guy that we hired to lead this and the others that were going with him to begin investing in the lives of people in that neighborhood with a focus and emphasis on children. The reason for this is that we're dealing with an area here that is dominated by gang life. This is crack central, particularly back in the 80s. And what we find is that when you deal with adults in this area, the majority of them have substance abuse issues, or they're alcoholic, they're drug addicts, they're absentee. It's a very difficult proposition. Even teenagers have already been claimed by gang culture. To get outside of the reaches of gang culture, you have to get down very young to the preschool age and to invest there and then to work with these kids all the way up and give them an alternative to joining in with the gangs and that whole culture that has been so glamorized, in our day through rap and hip hop. Everybody's, talking about gangsta this and that. And really what this is a nightmare for the people that have to live there and who have their lives taken over by it. We charged our people with seeking permanent social, spiritual, and community improvement for that entire area of town. And we were prepared we told them this is a 25-year project. So your budget the first year is $50,000, and we'll increase it as we're able. The first thing we did was start a Bible study in Windsor Terrace. I was there. And, people were responsive. We had James Brown was very helpful because he had been a gang leader himself in that neighborhood and was respected. A guy, a 3-time loser in the state pen, convicted for armed robbery multiple times. And so he was a tough guy, big, huge, tough dude. And I think he was our protector there too, because there was a lot of suspicion. I think there's always suspicion in these neighborhoods when you see a lot of white people showing up. What they're doing there, they don't belong. So I think that was a very important role. This Bible study began to take off, and it was for kids and also working with their families. Within a matter of years, that group in Windsor Terrace as a government housing project there had grown to 200 kids in the 90s. Unfortunately, it's declined since then. The key was to begin building the relationships. And so to that end, we brought in several other threads. One of the big ones was to begin an after-school program. Kids in these neighborhoods have to go to school. But when they get out, it's going to be 3, 4, 5 hours before mom comes home, if she even does. And all of that time, they're on the street, where a lot of bad stuff happens. They're certainly not going to be doing their homework. And so an after-school program, we bought 3 crack houses there that were abandoned houses, fixed them up, and began to have this thing where we told kids at the Bible study they could come out there and their parents. And so they would be with us from the time they got out of school until after dinner time when they went home. And during that period, we would feed them, give them milk and treats, and also work with them on their homework, trying to make friends, teaching them also about the things of God. And the number of kids that have gone through this system numbers in the hundreds today. We began, along with that, a tutoring program because it was quickly apparent that an after-school program was not enough, that more help was needed. And so hundreds, eventually thousands of Xenos people went and volunteered to meet with an inner-city kid every week, to try to help them with things they didn't understand that they were being taught. So we focused on, and these then became friendships, many of them going on for a decade and 2 decades, where a North End adult would be meeting with a kid. The parents loved it. The parents there, no one had ever shown any interest in their kids. They were just delighted that somebody was trying to help, trying to get in with them. And a lot of these friendships became pretty solid. There was an emergency relief ministry where we would meet people's emergency needs. And this is the short-term needs that we're focusing on here. One of the key reasons for having that was to meet people and to begin to form friendships where they would trust us and work with us and let us help them to overcome the barriers of. And so a lot of times doing good for somebody, just helping somebody, is the first step. And then maybe they'll listen to what you have to say later. Kids on Track was another program we started, summer job training program for kids that have never held a job. You know, here they are 15, 16 years old, have never worked at anything in their lives. They have no concept of showing up on time at work, of not cussing out the boss or fighting with people or stealing. And so it's a training process, and that's been successful as well. In the 90s, the entire leadership core of Urban Concern, mostly white families, decided to move into southern Linden, down to 12th Avenue, over by Cleveland and 12th, a very tough neighborhood. It was a scary move when you consider they had kids. Every night they would be woken by gunfire in the summer. There were always SWAT teams surrounding houses nearby in the neighborhoods because the deal had gone bad and so forth. And they lived there among them. They just simply felt like, we can't from outside tell them, you should do this in your situation, but we're not in that situation. And so in the spirit of the Good Samaritan, they went to them and lived there and have lived there ever since. Finally, in the after 2000, we were still struggling to see lasting results in this ministry, and the people that worked in it said that even with the after-school program, the tutoring, the Kids on Track, and the other things, we also had a housing project going where we would buy old houses for a pittance and fix them up nice for people to live in. And then there was a homeowners club we started where we partnered with a bank here in town. We had to call the program off. We had to disband it because our partner, the bank, showed up with their executives to have their picture taken for this awesome ministry that was starting to loan money to the poor, which they're mandated by the government to loan a certain amount of money to the poor. They wouldn't loan it. When we get the house ready and we had the family ready to move in, they simply would not loan the money. Well, of course, their credit was crappy. We knew that. Hardly anyone in the inner city has good credit. They haven't been paying their bills and stuff. And so the bank betrayed us and them, and we had to give up that project. Anyway, it finally came down to the fact that we still don't have enough investment, enough time with these kids. And so we decided to start an actual school. Harambee Christian School launched around 2000. So that we would now have them all day in school and the after-school program as well. So that we're investing in these kids now from 7:30 in the morning till 7:30 at night. And we really took things up to a new level. An entire staff of teachers in that school, all working at a fraction of what they would earn as teachers in the city school. The budget for Urban Concern has grown from that first $50,000 up to very high levels. The two high bars you see there are the past 3 years we got away from using our bought-up buildings for the school and decided to build a building that was more suitable. And so $3 million was sunk into that. That's why those two bars are so high. Now it's back up to about $1.2 million each year.